All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado in here. And it's a very big day here at the studio anyway. I hope so, because I got an email about an hour ago that the Hayes and Bro hats have arrived.
Oh, here
we got to get them, so we're not sure if we're going to be able to get over there. I don't know if anyone's working at shipping right now. If they are and they're listening, send them down, because Al's brother will not be in the studio, but Al's brother will join us later this afternoon with Luke Wilson.
So there's Hayes and Bro hats.
Yes, Hayes and Bro hats. My buddy Chris, we love Chris from Ahead, right? They make great hats, phenomenal hats.
He's the man.
He's the best. Man. Chris is the best. And, Hayes and Bro, the second it was established, hats were mandatory, Frankie. Mandatory hats. So
who designed them? You have any input, or just your boy did them on his own?
No, Chris knows what's up. I don't mess with greatness, right? That's, you know how I am. I'm running an orchestra here. That's basically how I operate the show. I let everyone breathe and everyone do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's how I operate.
Is that how it works? I was unaware of that after almost 10 years.
And then he wonders why people in public are calling him a fraud. And then he wonders.
Yeah, I do wonder that. I don't need that. I don't want that in my future, but it is a reality. And to the point where, like Noodles said yesterday, he was at a bar downtown. And not even coming up and saying, hi, Noodles. It's Hayes is a fraud.
Yeah.
Hayes and Co. is a fraud.
Yeah. So we got 3 NFL games tomorrow, a Black Friday game on Friday. We got NHL games back. The Raptors are back in action tonight. They got smoked again last night. Man, they get into a deep hole quicker than any team I can remember in this city. Where they're down
But even
20.
the coach said, Hayes, he's like, the start of the game, they were running up and down, and we couldn't keep up. I'm like, why not? Why weren't you ready for that? You knew it going in, but you just had no answer for it.
Yeah, like they're down 20 before you can even get the game on half the time. Like it's down 20 all the time. It's really not a good scene.
And they're asking him after the game, like, what's wrong? Like, he went through everything. Everything was wrong with the team yesterday.
Absolutely,
like, where do you even start with something like that?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's starting
good.
to sound like that Swiss coach at the World Juniors sometimes. He's just like, I don't know, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger.
Learn that we are far away from them still. They're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger, they can shoot better, they can pass better, they can do everything better.
Yeah.
Is that what you'll tell your team? Yes, absolutely this.
Yes. That really does apply to both sports, right? Like he said nothing about a puck or a ball or a court or the ice. He just said faster, they shoot better, they pass better.
Yeah. Hayes, have you ever seen a coach in a tenure? And I know some coaches, they start off, they've got beautiful hair, and 3 months in, same as the president of the United States, and then 3 months in, it's white because of the stress. Have you ever seen a total flip on a coach that started out all rosy and then all of a sudden just exploded into a monster?
It's funny you mention that because I saw someone online post a picture from 2019 compared to today, and it was Sheldon Keefe that was the example. Sheldon Keefe has been aging behind the bench here in Toronto, and I think Darko Rajokovic will likely do the same thing. It's not like Darko's young necessarily, but he's not an older guy. Like Sheldon Keefe is 42, 43. Yeah. I think he's 2 or 3 years older than I am, and he got the job in his 30s. And Sheldon has been dealing with some stress.
What would age you more, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs or the U.S. president?
Oh, president, I think for sure.
Dude, did you see the picture of Sheldon?
Yeah, it's been tough.
He looks youthful.
He did when he took the job. Well, it was all rosy with the Marlies. They won. They win 45, 50 games every year when they call the Cup.
$3 million budget in the AHL, no problem.
Comes up here and it's a grind, man, and it is like it's an aging process if you're going to be a head coach in pro sports. Like there's no easy gig. Like even if you're going to be terrible. And again, I don't think the Raptors, like no one was under the illusion this was a good basketball team. I think what they were fighting against was being an awful basketball team. And I think what has become somewhat of a reality through 14 games is they're closer to awful than they are great. I think they'll end up middle. Like, look at Sheldon there up on TSN 4. Like, he had the
Holy
salt and pepper going a little
Christmas.
bit. But those are Maple Leaf decals on the helmet. Like, that's a Matthews jersey behind the bench.
That's his first game.
That's his first game in Arizona.
Yeah, first game.
That's a young-looking, I could still be playing type of vibe. And you look at Sheldon walking out of Stockholm, that it's
Dude,
a different look
like,
now, man.
Did you hear that presser at the conclusion of the game? He's like, I got no sleep. There was so many challenges here. Like, just to add insult to injury for the guy.
Right.
But listen, it's a grind, man. Like, I got a lot of respect for those guys in those positions because it's like they don't sleep. They take everything home with them. Like, we do a show, we're done at 7. That's it. You wash your hands with it.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys got to take it home and chew the fat on the video and come up with solutions, you know?
Yeah. Well, I do often wonder that. Like, I know hockey is more of a free-flowing sport, though. Like, you hear that all the time in football, where every single play is broken down. Yeah. Every scenario. If we're up a touchdown, if we're down a touchdown, what are we going to do in the red zone? What are we going to do with the special team game? How are we going to approach?
And after the game, coaches are there till 4 in the morning.
All the time.
Every night.
Because it is more robotic. It is more of a stop-and-start game where you can actually break down everything and try to isolate. Okay, what's this left tackle doing? What's that cornerback doing here? You can't do that in hockey. Like, you're not breaking down every single player. Like, when the Leafs are in Chicago on Friday, Sheldon Keefe and company, they're not sitting there breaking down every player's tendencies and
I
every
think if
shift
they
they've
sit
played.
down and have a cold one after the game, it would more be about individuals. Like, that guy stunk the joint out tonight. Or they might get to a certain phase of the game, like our penalty kill stunk the joint out. But it's not like breaking down. I don't know if immediately after they're breaking down X's and O's, our zone entries were it's just not.
You know
that.
what happens?
They pick out 5 guys that were like, that guy stunk tonight, or we were just awesome tonight and we blew them out. Pretty simple.
My first year playing for Travis Green in the minors as a rookie, like Pigeon, you sit very close to the coach on the bus, and him and Nolan Baumgartner would do the rating 1 to 5. They would go through every single player, and you would hear what they're rating guys after games, and Greener would just be like, 1, maybe 1.5. He was brutal. And then you can hear like they're getting close to your number, and you're like, do I put my headphones on, or do I want to hear what he's about to say about me?
Yeah, I think I'd have to listen, but I'd be so mad afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Especially if you thought you played well.
Yeah.
And he's like 1.5. He was brutal, and you're like, Greeny, come on,
Or
man.
like
I thought I played pretty well.
He knows you're like 3 seats back, and he says it a little louder.
Right.
You might be listening.
But that's the eye test, right? It is difficult. Like, if you guys played the game, being behind the bench, there's a lot going on. You cannot possibly know exactly how everyone played. Like, you cannot track it. Even if you get a 5-man unit that's going to play a lot together, or even just break it down based on a forward line. 3 guys on the ice, let's say they get 20 shifts, whatever it is, you don't know exactly what they're doing the whole game. Like, to have an accurate assessment right afterwards, that guy was a 2, that guy was a 2.5.
No, I know. I do understand that, Hayes. But sometimes I thought, I might slip through the cracks here and no one noticed how garbage I was out there. And someone taps you on the pads the next day at practice. Or you never know. It's a hotel lobby. It's just somewhere. And it's like, you were god-awful tonight. It's very difficult, I found, to slip through the cracks. You might be able to do it once in a while, but for the most part, if you are known to do something and you just kind of slither around, it's like somebody's noticing. And the worst part about it is, in the sport of hockey, I'm not sure what it's like in other sports, but you sit up top and things are glaring because it looks like it's in slow motion and everything's slow. So if you felt like you had no jump, no legs in the National Hockey League, someone up above was horrified watching you.
I'll grant you that. And you're right. It is a lot easier to dictate what you think should have happened when you're sitting up top watching.
Yeah.
Right?
And I learned at a very young age that there's always somebody watching.
Right.
You know what I mean? For a multitude of reasons. There might be a pro scout that just wants to get some kind of ranking. There might be another team looking at you. Your own GM, your assistant GM might be in town. There is always eyes on you, and that's what the difficult part of the gig is. You got to throw together 75 unbelievable games or bring to the table what you do 75 times. That's what the gig is. That's why it drives me nuts hearing these NBA players saying, I'm only playing 70 games. I'm playing 65 games. Part of the gig is 82, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what you're historically paid to do. I mean, I saw, Embiid's not playing tonight. He's got hip soreness. He has played every game, though, which I find this is what's interesting with the NBA now is it was like Giannis against the Raptors last week. Missed the game, like injury management or whatever it was, but he had played every game before that. So it's like they're going out of their way to be like, sure, tonight sounds like a very, very innocuous injury and one that without doubt he could play through. But he's not going to, but I'm going to let you know he has played every other game. Meanwhile, they've been playing for like 2.5 weeks. It's not like we're into March here and they've been grinding. But yeah, listen, I that should be the case in pro sports. Every player should be accounted for. There should be enough eyes on you and scouts. What I'm saying is, what's the difference between a 2 and a 3 in the eye of the beholder on the bus afterwards? You know what I'm saying?
Ask Greeny. We'll get him on and we'll ask him. Like what's the worst he ever rated someone after a game?
If you're the 7th D in the American Hockey League, what the hell are you are you supposed to post 5s?
Well, exactly.
No,
is it relative?
Not. Yeah,
but
I'm sure it's
so if
relative.
you're a 3rd line plug and it's like the coach says, you were a 2 last night, and it's like, well, I am a deuce. I'm a deuce all the time.
Exactly. Deuce
so why do you want to bother giving me a rating?
Yeah. There should be a bell curve there, right? Like if you're rating at the NHL level Bobby McMahon and Austin Matthews on the same curve, that seems very unfair to
it's
Bobby
got to be a
McMahon.
good game for Bobby. Like, what's a good game for Bobby? But
as to go unnoticed. That's Bobby McMahon's best game.
Yeah, and listen, as far as the NBA guys sitting out, it sucks, and I agree. Like, one of the things that really differentiates the best players in the world at their sport is the grind and the longevity and the fact that they've been able to do it year after year. Like, it's like when people say, well, that guy just works really hard. Well, yeah, that's part of the job. He works really hard, and he's really good at it. That's what separates him. But I feel like it's become this thing where in basketball where there's like 1 or 2 guys that can really be game breakers and win you a series, and there's so much like financial windfall that comes with that, and you're paying these guys so much. So it just becomes one of these things where it's like, we can live with it as long as playoff time comes around and you're ready to go and you can get us where we need to go. But it sucks for the fan, it sucks for the viewer, and it kind of takes away from that allure of that guy he grinded and he was really good at it.
Yeah, and ideally, perfect world, guys play every night. Guys are ready to go every night. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. Let's not pretend like there aren't NHL players that miss games too because of injuries. I mean, there are guys that don't play every single night. But you talk about the scouting report, you can see it, and I saw it last night. Like, it's evident. Teams are like, we got to stop this Scotty Barnes kid, and this will be the challenge for him. Like, this is the next wave, right? If you're going to put up numbers. You're not hiding behind Siakam anymore or Van Vliet anymore, just finding touches. If the ball's going to be in your hands, there are teams who are game planning for him, and they made it very difficult on him last night. And he struggled. And he struggled to get shots off. He struggled to get shots down. And, that's going to be the next wave. If they're going to move off Siakam, move off Anunoby, this team could take a step or two back, and basically it'll be Scotty Barnes all the time. And, different player, but go talk to Jordan Poole about that. Like when Jordan Poole was in Golden State and it was Steph and Clay and Draymond and Wiggins, it was like, I'll be the 4th or 5th guy. I'll come off the bench, put up numbers, and it'll be all good. And if we lose, it's not my fault. I go talk to those guys.
Would you hesitate to have Scotty?
Now he's in Washington, different story, man. Very different.
Would you hesitate to have Scotty be like that one guy here on an island without stars around him?
Yeah, well, I think he'll probably have real struggles. I mean, if he's going to get to the finish line anyway as a guy that can be a top 10 or 15 player, then that will is within him, the talent's there, the ability's there, he'll get there. But at some point, you're going to have to get propped up. Like in every sport, you have to have help. And he has had help. Like early in his career, he's had Van Vliet, he's had Siakam, he's had Anunoby. But if they're going to move off, a couple of those better players, if Siakam walks, if OG Anunoby walks, so they move them, and it truly is like, here's the keys to the car, Scotty, what do you got? It could get ugly for a couple of years. Like, it's not easy in the NBA. If you're a one-man show, doesn't matter how great you are. If you're on a team that doesn't have enough help around you, the other teams are going to double you, triple you. They'll just say, we're going to get the ball out of your hands, and we're going to let that guy throw bricks up.
And I guess the question becomes after that, like, how long is it going to be like that? Like, how quickly can they turn it around and get him some help and prop him up? Because if it's going to be years for the guy where he's just the one-man show here and it's a little out of his depth, I don't know. You probably do some damage to the guy.
Doesn't Masai have to, like, I've said this to you, Hayes, and you know the inner workings of the NBA. Like, they've got this super executive who's making big bank. Like, the championship has worn off. It's like, what are you actually doing? Like, it's almost like the guy walks on water and nobody ever questions him. I've never seen any kind of piece where it's critical. They love ripping shanty and different hockey, but nobody ever says, like, what's up with this team and the guy who put it together? Mm-hmm. He never faces any criticism. It's like mediocrity for 2 or 3 years now. It's like, what are you doing? Hanging on to guys, losing them for nothing? What is the plan, or is it the no plan?
Yeah, I think he's facing it now, and if not, it's real close. And believe me, there are a lot of Raptor fans very frustrated with the fact that, Van Vliet left for nothing, Lowry left for nothing. That Pirtle deal looks awful right now. You traded a first-round pick to bring him in. Then
I think fans would have rather bottoming out with Scotty and some other pieces around where it's like, we're going to be terrible and hope to pick up some kind of lottery. I don't know, but I think they would rather be awful than mediocre.
Yes, and that's where they are again this year, right? They were 9th in the East last year. If they get in, and they still can, and they still maybe
they'll get in and get smoked if you get in.
Well, you're going to get into the play-in at most. They're not going to be a top 6 team in the East. That seems very unlikely. They will not be a top 6 team, so you're going to be a play-in situation again where you're hoping to find a couple of miracles and then break through and then play Boston, and then we probably know what's going to happen there. So, yes, I agree with you. I think most Raptor fans would. I think the fear for Ujiri is, we just talked about the Pistons yesterday. That's your fear, is if you really tank, you really unload, you could be horrendous for like a decade. That's terrifying. Like, that is terrifying. Where, like, Detroit bottomed out. They got Cade Cunningham. They got their guy. They've had multiple top 5 picks, and they have 2 wins again this year. They are back on pace to be one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NBA. Like, it's like they're in the cycle.
Guys are doing that on that
team. They can't get out.
That's disgusting.
They can't get out of the cycle. And I think that is what I'm sure Ujiri and company are terrified of. And
but isn't the process supposed to be Cade Cunningham is so good, he might attract some free agents to get to Detroit, and they slowly dig out of it?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
It's got to be a bit on him, too, like the player they drafted to get out of it. Like, what's he doing out there?
Well, do you ever hear any free agent rumors like, Detroit's really making a push? No. I never hear the Pistons in anything. It's the same
Frank,
old
you know what else I've never heard?
NBA.
I've never heard Kara and Lindsay say Cade Cunningham's leading Sports Center with a performance that'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like it.
No, and he's had some injury problems. He's put up good numbers. He's a talent. He's a legit player. But that is the thing. Like, now, the flip side of it is Orlando's bottomed out for a while, but they're coming back up. And they had a first overall pick. And they took that Banchero kid, and he looks legit, and it's moving in the right direction. They've surrounded him with good young pieces. Indiana, they didn't necessarily crap out completely, but they basically took a step or 2 back. And now they're starting to move in the right direction. They get the number 1 offense in the NBA. Defensively, they're terrible. But they're winning games. The Raptors are in Indiana tonight. So there are ways to avoid the catastrophe that is Detroit. But that's why you pay and employ executives. Yes, I understand the terror of that and the fear of being Detroit, but it's your job to make sure that doesn't happen. Like, if you're going to be a middling team anyway, you might as well take a big step back and then hope 2-3 years down the road you really start to move forward. Because, you never hear Detroit in on free agents. You don't hear Toronto really either. Like, Toronto will sign the occasional guy, but never monsters.
No.
Like, the KDs aren't coming here. The LeBrons aren't coming here.
We always talk about trades because it's like, guys don't want to sign here, so you got to make a big trade to get a guy like that.
Yeah, and that's really happened once.
And then
let's clarify that.
Yeah, you hope they're willing to come here.
Yeah. And again, it's happened once. Yeah. Like, it was Kawhi.
Take a number on the likelihood of it happening again. Who knows, man?
And that might be, listen, prior to them winning the championship, it seemed very unlikely for a long time this team would be competing for one. And then it all came together. It all worked out. It was an amazing run. They won a title. And since then, the world has changed because of COVID, but they've taken a big step back. And now, they appear to be just a team that is likely on the outside looking in. Certainly not the worst team in the league, but nowhere close to the best.
Are they relevant?
No, they're not. Like, outside of this market, they're not. Yeah. I mean, with all due respect, if I was doing this show somewhere else, I'd be like, who's talking about the Raptors?
No.
Nobody is.
They got their one ever Christmas game, and that'll be it for life.
Yeah, they're not getting back in that rotation anytime soon.
No, that's not for them. They got to win a championship, and they did. And
yeah, And it was a
The
great
only way
run.
they get
But yeah, that was a while ago. And now they got to figure out where they're going to take this team. All right, Bobby Ryan is coming up. I don't think we've ever had Bobby Ryan on the show before.
Good guy.
We have.
Yeah.
Don't want to correct you on air, but we
Okay.
have had him. Actually, when he played with the Sens, we've had him on.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
God, that was a
awesome.
long time ago.
That's maybe why I would forget that. But yeah, okay, we got Bobby Ryan on. We'll catch up with him, get his take on a bunch of games in the NHL tonight, including Patrik Laine going back into the lineup. I'm sure he'll be fired up.
He's
to
playing
perform.
wing, though. He's not playing center. He's playing wing.
Well, and they're playing Chicago, and you just sense Connor Bedard is already going to sniff like blood in the water, isn't he? Like you just feel like he's going to go in there tonight and possibly torch this team, and he's 18 years old.
I could not
I love
believe
it.
when you said Patrik Laine had 3 points on the year.
Yeah, 3 points. 3 points. And
He
he's
should
not
have
happy.
3 points in a period in the first game of the year. Like, that's what kind of talent that guy possesses. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's been a real
Shocking,
struggle,
man.
and that team's a real struggle. It's not a good scene in Columbus.
I don't know, man. So, like the really good players, they find a way to evolve as the game moves on here. It seems like he's still kind of stuck on that. I got one way to beat the goalie, and that's all I got. And
I think there's only
Everyone
one way out of
sniffs
it
out.
for him. I think he's got one last kick at the can, and that would be to go to a team like the Los Angeles Kings or the Vegas Golden Knights, where there's a bunch of guys around like Doughty and Kopitar or Mark Stone and Pietrangelo, where it's like, this is what goes on here, pal, and this is how we do business, and he could kind of thrive in that, where
Yeah.
it's like non-negotiable type work ethic, and maybe that would help him. I don't know. Maybe that would be his last chance.
Yeah, I don't see why any other team though would want to take him on.
No, no
you're
kidding. I'm not saying they would. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that seems to be his last way out of, because he's struggling and he's one of the main dudes on a team that's just got a terrible record, and they've been terrible forever. I don't know what the solution is.
You know, the only
man.
way that happens is once this contract finishes, I don't know how many years are left on it, 2 or 3 maybe. He's going to have to sign one of those like bottom of the barrel deals and try and hope that one of those GMs on a good team wants to give him a shot. And they're probably just going to be like, listen, you got like 10 games here to show us something, or we're just going to send you down or put you on waivers or whatever. But
Well, he's got 2 years left on the deal, so
imagine
know,
that
he's-
guy on a PTO after 2 years, because that's where it's trending.
Yeah. Although that said, he's got a lot of time to, I guess, get out from underneath it. He's made money. He's been in the league now for this is 8th year. He came in when Matthews came in. So
you know what he needed? Oh, he needed someone to really like help guide him along when he was a young guy. Like you guys brought it up on the show the other day about the situation Matthews got put in here in Toronto, where there was some good young players here already. Marner, Nylander, they were all starting at the same time. But there was some like quality veteran guys around that team, like JVR, Bozak. Like there was some really good cadre. Like that helped Matthews. I don't think he got that in Winnipeg, man. Like I don't
What
think
about
he
Dustin
ever.
Bufflin, Mark
Yeah, they had
Scheifele? There
Buff, they had
there
Wheeler
were some
there.
quality
But
guys around.
there was always like it's even last year there was always like that noise around Winnipeg. Like what's the problem there? What's going on there? What's going on in the room? It's like I don't know. Maybe Laine was a casualty of that. I don't know.
it's possible.
I think in
it-
this particular situation, you are dead wrong with that assessment, because he was given every opportunity in Winnipeg to play on the power play with the top guys, and you can be the man if you want to be the man. And then he got to Columbus, and it's been a gong show, an absolute sideshow gong show.
Fair enough. Point taken.
Well, listen, I think a lot of excuses have been made for Laine throughout his career. And let's not forget, he also had Paul Maurice, who was a veteran coach, like comfortable in his own skin. And, you know, he couldn't thrive under him. That was the best he played was with Maurice. But he had a good opportunity there with some good players, and it obviously didn't work out. And we'll see what comes of it. Connor Bedard, again, in Chicago or in Columbus. Tonight you got Edmonton and Carolina. We'll get to that. Bobby Ryan coming up. Darren Drager will join us. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. We got picks for the Thanksgiving games tomorrow. Luke Wilson will join us. Al's brother coming up as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado in here. Bobby Ryan will join us here in a moment. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. Jerry, I'm sure, is jacked for Thanksgiving down in the U.S. tomorrow. And there's a lot of hockey news out there, some NFL news out there, some golf news out there as well. Looks like John Rahm might be sniffing around Live Golf.
Oh,
we'll see. Yes, there's a lot of rumors out there about Rombo pulling the chute on the PGA. And Tiger and Charlie are playing the PNC.
Yeah.
So that's the 5th major, right? It's always exciting. No other player at that tournament gets even 5% of the coverage that Charlie Woods
fly
gets.
in the A-team with the whole booth and everything for that. Chambly's on the desk breaking down the swings.
Right, although no Zinger. Azinger's out at NBC.
Yeah.
R.I.P., brother.
Yeah, Zinger, end of the road. I don't know who they're replacing him with, but Zinger?
I
don't know. Anyway, I'm not putting
I don't know. Listen, I don't know what to say about Zinger because, listen, he's a very respected guy in the golf world.
Good guy.
What are you going to say?
What are you going to say? Yeah, we like Zinger, but I'm sure he'll pop up somewhere. Maybe he'll launch a podcast, right? Maybe it's possible that Zinger launches a podcast because we got a guy on the line who's very familiar with doing that. Longtime NHLer, former 2nd overall pick, former Ottawa Senator, and co-host of the Coming In Hot podcast. Here's Bobby Ryan. How you doing, Bobby?
What's up, fellas? I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing well, man. You liking the podcast lifestyle or what?
Oh, yeah. I get to work with Brent Wallace. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yes, exactly. Wally's a legend.
The local podcaster, Brent Wallace.
The local podcaster, the self-proclaimed. But no, you know what? It's actually been a lot of fun. We're about a year in, obviously, and kind of picking up some steam as things are changing over up there in Ottawa at the higher level, and having a little more access is going to be great for us. But I'm enjoying it. I just wish it wasn't the middle of the day. So
yeah,
I'm like, can't make a tea time at 9 a.m. to get home by 2. It's tough.
Yeah, you got to work that. You got to figure that out, man. We all live in that world. I understand where you're going with that.
That's what happens when you represent yourself in contract negotiations, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Get an agent on the line quick, man. You got to start working some new details out. Are things quieting down in Ottawa? I mean, I know they went over there. They got 4 points. Everyone seems happy. I think people in Stockholm were impressed with DJ Smith and the job he was doing. Everyone all happy in Ottawa or what?
Man, nobody's ever all happy in Ottawa. That's what I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes people, when you look at what they've gone through the last couple of years, they were expected to take a major jump this year, and it hasn't happened right out of the gate. So there's a little bit of impatience, and people don't want to say the same thing over and over again. But I do think it's a different team this year. And people complaining about the defense or this or that. They got 4 out of 4 points on the road in overseas environments. So let's just take what we can get right now, and hope that these guys can string together and leading into the Christmas break a bit of a month here and go from there.
Bobby, would you say some of the frustration from the fans? Some of the young players, they're studs. They produce in the power play. They're creative. They're game breakers. But it seems like the same very ones that are doing that are the ones that make a risky play at the wrong time, try a backhand pass up the middle, and it somehow ends up in their net every time. And it's just like to learn the difference. We talk about game management and the lack of it in the modern day player. It's crazy sometimes. And it seems to be the same guys doing the same silly things all the time that end up costing them games.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, and that's part of the learning process. We forget sometimes these guys are still young, right? That they're still learning how to manage the puck better, and I think that it's going to take a little longer to get that out of the game because a lot of these guys have been chasing games for a couple of years where you're down 3-1 early, and you have to. The rope gets a little longer when you're trying to get back in it. Now they have the ability to be in games, and they still have some of that creep in. And that'll go away. As they start to realize that these games aren't out of hand anymore and that they're in it till the end. You'll start to see that calm down a little bit. But I could not agree more with your assessment there.
Bobby, when you watch this team play, I think Jeff kind of hits the nail on the head here as far as some of the deficiencies with the team. It seems like it's just the big mistake, and it ends up in the back of the net. As this team progresses here through the regular season, what's the one thing you want to look for with this team that's going to help them kind of get over the hump?
They got to tighten up defensively. They get involved in too many shootouts and trying to win 5-4 as opposed to 2-1. And again, that's a team that's had to chase games for quite a while. now that they don't have to do that as much, they're going to have to calm that down and start to get to a place where they're not making those big defensive laps. I can live with the turnovers north of the red line. Those are going to happen. Certainly as these young guys are getting more and more comfortable, but you're coming back into the zone on 2-on-5s and giving up a grade A, and those things got to be limited.
We're chatting with Bobby Ryan. Ottawa, like you said, there's not a lot of patience there in terms of the fan base waiting for them to finally take off. And after a couple of wins in Sweden, that very well could be a spark that moves them in the right direction. Then you got Edmonton, who are dealing with a completely different set of expectations, where Ottawa just wanted to make the playoffs. In Edmonton, they were thinking, we got to win a Stanley Cup, and they felt like they probably could. I don't know if you can draw on any point in your career where you were in a similar spot in terms of really high expectations and it started ugly. But if you do have an example of that, like what's going on in the room and what are the boys possibly thinking in Edmonton? Because they got a tough one tonight in Carolina.
I have no clue what they're saying. Man, the amount of, I guess, the Instagram stories and the things, the Twitter clips, like it's free entertainment right now.
Yeah, it is.
So every day is a little interesting, but you're going to start to separate who's going to be there long-term and who's not going to be there long-term pretty quickly when you have this much adversity to deal with. So there is a silver lining and a positive out of that you can take. Problem is you got, two players in Connor and Leon that are probably at wit's end and start to think about possibly forcing their way out of there. And that's a major issue when you have two of the top 5 players in the world, arguably looking for ways to get out. But there's always something to play for. Guys are going to start to think about maybe our success as a team isn't going to happen, but my success individually can happen. And guys are playing for contracts, trying to stay in the league, all different things. But man, they're in for a long year. I had them going to the finals. I really did think that they were going to learn from last year in that Vegas series and take a major step. And that just, when you can't get a save, you're not going to win.
Bobby, if you're one of those star players in that room in Edmonton, would you have gone to someone by now and said, we need a goaltender yesterday? Just do whatever it is you need to do to get us a goaltender. Because, I don't care, about the defensive deficiencies that team may have. We see it from time to time. Guys are kind of missing assignments. If they can't get a save from 25, 30 feet, they have no chance of playing, at a .650 winning percentage the rest of the way in.
No chance. I break that down and you're talking about not getting a save from 25 to 30 feet. It's scary. It's scary. So yes, if I'm one of those top dogs, I'm absolutely, with all the changeover they had, I'm absolutely trying to get in somebody's ear. And you and I have never had that kind of pull, so we were never going to do that. But
I couldn't even get myself in the lineup.
Yeah.
But right, if you're Connor McDavid, why are you not banging on the door saying we need a goalie? We need a goalie and somebody that can steal the odd game. I'm going to give you 150. Leon's going to give you 125. Get us somebody that can get us a 90% save percentage.
No kidding.
Bobby, you would have played against Patrik Laine. Did you ever think that you would see him in the position that he's in right now? I thought he was going to be the next Ovi when he came into the league. And he's got, I think Hayes just said he's got 3 points on the year. Did you ever think playing against him you would see that?
No, I think obviously when you come in and he scored 40 a couple times. No, I don't think the drop off for me was ever going to feel this dramatic. But to me, he was never a guy that was going to drive a line or a team, and that's not a detriment. That's just the reality. I think that he's a very, very nice complementary player that can shoot the puck as well as anybody in the world, save alone maybe Austin Matthews. So he's got a God-given gift to shoot the puck, but he needs people that are going to put him in positions to shoot the puck. He's not a guy that creates on his own, right? And that just hasn't happened for him. So I don't think I would ever expect to look at him as a healthy scratch for a team like Columbus. No, but I didn't see him as the next Ovi either. I was somewhere in the middle on that.
We're chatting with Bobby Ryan. You mentioned Matthews. You're an American. You can play the role of our American correspondent here. Is he the top dog right now in terms of American players, or is Jack Hughes with them? The fact that Kane is going to return at some point, does Patrick Kane, even though he's not playing at the same level, does he still kind of represent it? Who would be the face of American hockey right now if you had to pick one?
If I had to pick one, I would absolutely pick Austin Matthews. And to second that, another name would be Matthew Tkachuk. I know he's got a bit of a reputation that does precede him, and the way he plays is a little bit more on edge. But when you're looking at a blue-collar American working kid, that is it. He is, and what he did in the playoffs is just next level. So There's obviously other names you could throw in the mix too. Jack Hughes has really come on the last year and a half and has taken over in New Jersey. But for me, it's Austin Matthews. The way he plays, the way he skates. It's I wish that we were marketing him way more in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's getting a ton of it up here, as you know, and he has since he arrived. He went first overall. Patrik Laine actually went second overall, funnily enough. But it looks like we're getting close to a best on best in the next couple of years. If there was a best 4 out of 7, Canada versus the U.S., who do you think would win that series and why?
You're putting me on the spot.
Yes.
God, I would love to see what the makeup of the lines would be and how it would go. And the two countries are just so close for me now. I'm American, so I'm going to say the U.S., but I say that very lightly.
Yeah, well, they got better goalies. I mean, I'm Canadian, but I can admit that. I mean, it's not even close right now.
It's thin up here, man.
It's very thin, and you got Hellebuck, Demko,
Ottinger,
Swayman, I believe, is an American
John
kid.
Gibson could be your 5th best goalie on that team.
Yeah, and he's got like a 925 save percentage.
That's scary.
Right now.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Yeah,
I'd really like to see John Gibson go somewhere where he has a chance to win because I think that we're seeing him carry a team that's not great by any metrics or anything. But I think if you put him in a situation like Carolina, he'd be the best goalie in the world.
What do you make of the scoring race right now? Like Quinn Hughes, the defenseman in Vancouver, leads the NHL in scoring, and you take a look at the top 5. It's Pasternak, Miller, Kucherov, Elias Pettersson, and William Nylander's 6. Like we don't see McDavid, we don't see Draisaitl. It seems like the scoring race is up for grabs this season. Like, is there someone there in the top 10 that you really think takes a stranglehold of this thing and runs with it?
I don't. I think we're going to see. We'll see things stabilize. Quinn Hughes is obviously elite, but he's not going to be in the top 5 by the end of the year. It's just not sustainable for a defenseman. But I do believe JT Miller is a guy that I would have circled as potentially being up there. And I'm just trying to think.
Pasternak, Kucherov's been off to a great start.
Kucherov's been off. Hughes, I think, is when you look at the league and the guys that are able to put up 2 and 3 a night, there's the Jack Hughes, the McKinnons, and the McDavids, right? That's about it. So if anybody's going to come back and make that race really, really interesting, I think Jack Hughes will take off.
Well, Bobby, we really appreciate you doing this again. The podcast is the Coming In Hot podcast, and he is a former NHLer, and we really appreciate you doing this. I know it's a busy time of year, so thank you for this, and we'll do it again down the road.
I appreciate it, fellas. I'm going to go catch a flight to the beach.
Attaboy. Go do your thing. Bring your clubs. There's Bobby Ryan. And that's a pretty good lifestyle. Flying to the beach for U.S. Thanksgiving, I would assume.
That's National League. Guy made a lot of money when he played.
Yes, he did. Second overall pick.
I can't even imagine what lineups with what's going on in Buffalo, like what the lineups would be like now. Like, I don't know what's gone on there. I don't know what that is, the level of concern that is, but I would imagine getting through an airport anywhere going to the U.S. or through to it would be crazy.
Yeah. Well, they've I believe just shut down borders. Certainly, I think it was the Rainbow Bridge, I believe, in Niagara Falls, where the incident took place, and there were fatalities. So that bridge has been shut down. The other bridges in the neighborhood or in the area trying to get into Buffalo or New York, if not shut down, like completely paused. And you're right, like trying to get through customs and all that, it's going to be wild right now.
Every year today we get the viz of the freeway in LA. What is it, the 405 with all the lights? Like it's just a parking lot. You cannot move.
Yeah, it absolutely is the case. Like the biggest travel day of the year in the U.S. Today and yesterday, I believe, like more so than Christmas, anything else. But yeah, you look at the race for the Art Ross. Like the fact that McDavid and Draisaitl are not even in the top 10, and it will not take them long to get there. Like Draisaitl's got 22 points. He could be leading this by Christmas.
Yeah.
And it would not be that surprising. But like McDavid, I don't even think he's on the first page.
Dude, you know who's sneaky? We talk about Quinn Hughes a lot, and rightfully so. Cale Makar's 3 points behind him.
27 points.
And we're not really talking about Cale Makar. But they're playing tonight. Hughes versus McCarr tonight.
Right, Vancouver in Colorado, I believe.
I'm not sure.
What
but
that does, though, it positions McCarr where he can go on a 2-month heater, and then everyone just says, Norris is his.
Yep,
So
exactly.
That's over.
As great as Hughes was, look at what this guy's doing.
I know. This guy moves the needle, man. Like, when he gets everyone's attention, everyone's like, there's your Norris Trophy winner. Enjoy.
Yeah. Well, you know what it does, though, again, with the best on best? Like, the marketing is right in front of you. It's Matthews versus McDavid. But Hughes versus McCarr would not be far behind that.
No kidding.
Like, in terms of number one defenseman. And even with Hughes playing this well, I'm not sure if he does play more minutes than Adam Fox or McAvoy, where I know McCarr is playing more than any other Canadian.
Well,
like, there's no other Canadian defenseman that is close to his stratosphere right now.
On a team like that, you got to think Hughes is a specialist. He's your power play specialist. Although Adam Fox, man, that guy can run a power play with the best of them.
Yes, he can.
He's incredible.
And McAvoy's playing so well, man. Like, he has been lights out.
He's so ornery on the ice.
Yeah, I thought that would stop when Chara left.
So
I did.
Ornery.
I thought he would smarten up because I thought players in the league would be like, all right, Big Z's not around anymore. He has not stopped being a pain in the ass.
Because he'll punch you right in the face, too.
Yeah.
Like, he'll stand right
That's
over you and say,
suspension.
And guess
who
what?
wants
Every
one?
executive around the league thinks that that's a separator for him. It's like he's a competitor, and they'll take him over a skill only all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who
It's like
else?
Chris Pronger. Chris Pronger could make a 70-yard feather saucer pass right up the middle onto some guy's tape. But you know what people liked in hockey? That he would cross-check and break a stick over your back in front of the net.
You know who else is like that? Every GM would take Jacob Trouba. That guy punishes people.
Yep.
Every couple weeks, there's a massive hit, and most of the time, it's clean. He just catches someone with their head down, and then he stands there. He's like, "What are you guys going to do about it?"
Yeah.
Nothing.
Every hockey
Nothing
exec
with
with their big ass and their tight slacks, with their belts on and their tight tucks, they love that.
As they should.
Yeah.
It's an important quality. Like, that's why Pronger was as great as he was, because he could make a first pass. He could run a power play, but he'd also kill you. He'd happily try to kill you.
That's right.
If he was in the mood to do so.
The tight slacks.
All right. Darren Dreger in 20
They all
minutes.
look the same. All the execs
Dude,
back
like,
in the day. It was like they were like 5'10", big rear ends, ex-players, tight tucks, love competitors.
How long do you wear the slacks before you realize I got to get new slacks? Like, I just got to move on from these ones.
I don't think they ever do. Once you
No,
get to that
man.
level, you're in that for life, man.
Once you get into that phase, like, you are in tight with that. Like with the Sperry boots and like, I don't know. It's just a vibe that never goes away.
Yeah. You don't go, there's
No,
no
you're not
there's no
going back
renovation
from
on
that.
that. No, there's no renovation. Like, maybe they tint the hair at some point. Mix in a pair of glasses.
And that is a dangerous game,
yes,
man.
it is.
You can't do it.
It
I don't
happens
care.
all
You
the time.
cannot
Well,
start
dude-
tinting your hair when they've been.
Were you in
panning
Van
to you-
with our boy?
dude?
Because
yes,
he
I
would
was
go
there.
into scouting meetings, and everyone must have been like, "What happened with the salad?" It was like a dark shade of black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Benning was a tone setter.
I'm surprised with the
trendsetter.
way things went in Vancouver. I'm surprised there wasn't viz of him like up in the box with the Rudy Giuliani like dye like streaming from the sweat, the lather, and
He
just
painted it good, though. I'll give him. Whoever dyed Jimmy Benning's hair did a nice job.
Yeah. Well,
Because he would be talking to the press one day, and you'd see all the gray on the sides. Next day, jet black all the way through.
he should have been more focused on like putting a good team on the ice than dyeing his hair.
I was going to say, though, does he get any credit for... No? Okay, he drafted Pettersson. He drafted Hughes. Didn't he acquired JT Miller, did he not?
He also drafted Jake Virtanen over William Nylander and Nikolai Ehlers.
That was a bad move.
No.
And Ole Olevi.
Ole Olevi over Matthew Tkachuk.
over Matthew Tkachuk is one that
Dude, this-
really stings.
Look at this Jimmy Benning salad on that pick.
Dude, that's an eyebrow tint, too, which that's commitment.
That's at the
don't
draft
know.
table saying, guys, I don't want Matthew Tkachuk. We're going to take you.
Ole Olevi.
Yeah.
It was on that London Knights team with Marner and Tkachuk, actually. They were on the same team. That means Jimmy Benning was there watching Tkachuk, and he goes,
dude, he's not
I
doing
like
the
Ole
eyebrow.
Ulevi.
He's not doing eyebrows, too.
I think so, man. Those things are dark. If you can zoom in, we'll come back and we'll have a full breakdown. Darren Dreger coming up. I was going to say Gary Bettman. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Technique.
All right, TSN 1050's Leafs lineup. Your chance to win Leaf tickets every week, all season long. Every weekday, we'll announce a current or former Maple Leaf player. And on Fridays, you'll have a chance to call in and name the Leaf lineup of the week. Today's player of the day is Trevor Kidd.
Ooh.
Trevor Kidd. How many games did he play as a Leaf? Could not have been many.
Who was he back up for? Cujo or Belfour?
It might have been like Grant Fuhr. Like it was in the 90s, I believe. I'm telling you, man. I would think Cujo, if anything. He played 34 games, JP? Okay. Let's give that a little Google search.
I'm gonna check it out.
I'm going to say Grant Fuhr.
I thought he was the backup for Belfour.
That's too late, though, man. He was drafted like when Noodles was drafted, I think. He wasn't still in the league, I don't think, by 03, 04. Anyway, today's player, Trevor Kidd. This week, we're giving away tickets to see the Leafs take on the Bruins December 2nd. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card with each pair of tickets to make it the ultimate game night. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro-Canada. Got us an update?
03 and 04.
It was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for Eddie the Eagle. He was the backup.
Good for you.
I thought he was the backup after Healy, maybe. Was it Heels into
Heels was
Trevor
here
Kidd?
like when they were still playing in the Gardens, though.
Or like Heels into Corey Schwab into Trevor Kidd. I don't know.
That's a great quiz stuff, though. Like, I don't remember the backups for Cujo at all.
There was a zillion of them, and they didn't play ever.
They never played. Cujo would have played 68, 70 games a year. All right, we'll see if we can come up with as many as we should do that later. Cujo and Eddie the Eagle backup trivia.
I bet you there's 35 of them.
Yeah, there could be. Darren Dreger and Jerry's percentages in the next hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.